if they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Leads it to Monker. Round the wall. Yeah! Get in there, Monker! Yeah! Get in there!
It's Sonny Bradley! He's scored! That's for Luton Town! He can do more than that. Matt comes in with a battle on. And it's a battle he's losing. John Clark!
Hello and welcome to the Oak Road Hatter podcast. I'm Billy Mully, today joined by Jamie Castle and Kieran Robertson, head of Liverpool at home. Jamie, how are you?
Can't be nothing other than excited, really. Liverpool at home, Kenilworth Road, probably second half under the lights, given it's now GMT. The nights are drawing in the Premier League. You can't go much wrong with that. So super excited, and yeah, it's a delight to be talking all things Liverpool on the podcast.
I didn't even consider that it's going to be under the lights. Kieran, how are you?
Yeah, you've made it sound a little bit better by saying that, ain't you? And also the important part, just disclaimer for all the fans, 4:30 kickoff on a Sunday means an extra hour and a half in spoons. Get in.
After we lost an hour last Sunday, although there was no spoons because there was no spoons, but yeah, still.
Yeah, cheers, Miller.
The world has a wicked way of serving you back up. Well, the first thing I want to mention today is the big giveaway that we have now announced. It's on Twitter, it's on Instagram, it's on everywhere that you follow us. Of course, it entails 3 wonderful prizes. We've got a 23-24 Luton Town shirt, any home, away, or the third you choose. We've also got 3 lots of A4 Matthew J. Wood Luton prints. If you haven't seen his artwork on Twitter, check it out, and I'm sure you'll be excited to get your name in the hat solely because of that, let alone the other prizes. And we've also got the playoff final CFAX mug, which again, very, very cool prize to be able to give out to one lucky winner. As we've mentioned, to get involved and to get your name in the hat, we need you to subscribe to Oak Road Hatter on YouTube. We need you to retweet or share this post on Instagram or Facebook. And to gain an extra entry, tag 3 people in the comments. We've got loads of people in the hat already. It's going to be interesting. 13th of November, it's the post Manchester United pod. We will announce the winner. Let's go on to Liverpool, and they're in good nick, like Villa, in very good nick at the moment. They're 4th, 23 points from 10. Back to their best, Jamie, after last season where they weren't quite firing like we know they can. Can we fully say now that Liverpool have returned to that, the upper echelons, the team that can challenge Manchester City, although there are probably a few this season?
I think they're getting there. They're on that path. As you said, last year was a tough year for the club and Klopp. Performance is nowhere near what they are capable of. In terms of back to their best, probably not. I think if you look at that Premier League title season and over the course of a few seasons, they basically matched City point for point over a long period of time. And I think for a significant part of that, they were probably better than City for 18 months. So I think they're not at that level. I think they've still got a bit to go. I think their midfield probably isn't as strong. I think that midfield of Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, or Wijnaldum that was in there as well. That midfield of old was certainly better than this midfield at the minute in terms of structure. But yeah, they're certainly on their way to getting back to their best. Front 3 probably as good as that front 3 was. So yeah, it goes without saying it's going to be incredibly difficult in terms of their setup against ours. 4-3-3. They've sort of played in that system for some time now. So players are used to playing in that system. They know inside out what Klopp wants, and that in itself is massively dangerous based on the sort of manager that Klopp is tactically. So I'm expecting a full throttle, probably end-to-end game. We certainly will have our chances, but yeah, it's going to take a lot to stop them up front as well.
As we've mentioned there, Kieran, they've been fantastic so far. 23 points from 10 games, 2.3 points per game, that is. But away from home, it's 8 points from 5. Does that fill you with a bit of, I don't want to say hope, because it's not a desperate situation at all, because Luton can be as confident as they possibly can at Kenilworth Road. We know that. But does that kind of play into our favour, the fact that they haven't been as dominant on the road?
Of course it does. And I think the thing that I was thinking about this morning was sort of we can take solace from that Spurs performance where you think, yes, they were down to 10 men, but we remained competitive for 90 minutes throughout that entire game. And that's top of the league coming to the Kenny, lunchtime kickoff in a different environment. They're not used to the soulless bowls that they're usually surrounded by with the rest of the league. But we offer something different. We offer something that they're not used to, not just in environment, but play style as well. And at home, it sort of just gives us our chance to express ourselves. We're meant to be the dominant side. We got the home advantage, in air quotes, if people believe in that. And I think that's going to make another difference again. Sunday night on TV, Kenny's back under the lights, usually brings those special moments. And everyone thinks of the last time we played Liverpool in that FA Cup game years and years ago, well, that feels like now. Why can't we go and recreate a moment like that? Yes, Liverpool are in good nick. Yes, they're going to be the favourites going into the game. But like you said, that away statistic speaks volumes, and all it takes is us to go 1-0 up, and by God, you never know.
And Kieran, sticking with you there, you mentioned the Spurs game. Can you see it panning out similar to how the sort of first half panned out, where Tottenham were very, very good? They played some slick attacking football. We struggled at first to adapt to it, but I think as the game wore on, we grew more confident and we were braver with our pressing. Do you think that it could play out, or do you think that we can learn from perhaps those mistakes and make it more difficult for a team like Liverpool to play that slick attacking football?
I'd like to say I think we're learning from it. I think the difference compared to last season is a completely different ball game in terms of we were the team, we were the aggressor last season. We were the ones that stuck it on teams week in, week out, and they didn't know what to do with it. And that's how we won a lot of games of football last year. Whereas now we're coming into a season where we're the ones that are getting it stuck on us, and we're a bit like, oh, hold on, what the hell's going on here at first? And that's why you look at that Spurs game, like you said, we could have been 3 down in 10 minutes because we just looked like we had no clue how to just comprehend this press and this quick football and the slick one-touch passing that Maddison, Son, etc. had in their locker. And even you look at that Kulusevski chance, one touch is all he needed, and he would have stuck it in the corner if it weren't for a world-class save from Kaminsky. It's going to be the same vibe, except now you're dealing with Luis Diaz, you're dealing with Darwin Núñez, Mo Salah, Cody Gakpo, Jota. You've got 5 players. They'll obviously play 3 of those 5, realistically. They might even play 4 out of the 5. But you've got 3 out of 5 of those who are unbelievable in front of goal. I mean, 4 out of 5. Núñez is decent, but either way, just it's a lot to keep quiet at once. And I think that's the thing that we're trying to sort of adapt to is like, even you look at the Villa game on the weekend, yes, we were away from home, but it's just a higher quality of player that we've got to try and shut up at the moment. So it almost requires 110% from every single player now, every single game. And hopefully that will come fruitful on Sunday.
And Jamie, Jurgen Klopp, manager of Liverpool for 8 years now, 8 years going strong. He's obviously done fantastic things with the club. Do you think Liverpool under his stewardship are still as strong as, say, that 18-month period where they were more dominant in City? Do you see that faltering? Do you think he's, capable of continuing to lead Liverpool to that, as I said before, upper echelon, the top sort of standard, the world-class level of the Premier League?
Yeah, I think they're on their way. I think there's in transition. I think they're probably one proper defensive midfielder away from getting there. I think if you look back of the Liverpool of old, they had Fabinho at his prime, who was excellent, probably as good as Rodri is now for Man City, and you saw the impact that Man City had of losing Rodri, and it's almost that same level of impact. I think the midfield three, they've got options. They've got McAllister signed for Brighton, Szoboszlai signed from Leipzig, Gravenberch, who obviously Kieran knows from the Dutch league, but was at Bayern for a while. So they've got good midfield options, but I think they're lacking that out and out defensive midfielder, and they've sort of plugged that gap with signing Endo, but he's nowhere near the level of that of what Fabinho was back then. So I think they're lacking a bit in midfield. But going forward, as I said, they're as good as, I think, Nunez as a centre forward, he's probably as close to a complete forward as you can get, bar the finishing. Yotta's been an excellent player at this level for ages. First at Wolves, now here. Mo Salah, don't need to add anything. Luis Diaz, obviously not sure if he's going to play on Sunday, given the tough time he's had with his family back home in Colombia. But he's still a fantastic player. Hakpo, ex-PSV, me and Kieran know him well. Great player, not had the rub of the green too much at Liverpool, but we still know what he can do. So I think going forwards, they're probably stronger than they were under that Liverpool of old. But I think defensively, they've still got a bit to go. I think they were rolling out clean sheet after clean sheet in that little 18-month gap. But now they're struggling a little bit, especially as you said, away from home. I think at home they're fine, but away from home difficult. But it's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, the buzzword being the Gegenpress. That's how Klopp likes to play. They're going to press us really high, and that's what I expect. But we'll probably try and press them pretty high as well. We're at home. I think we press Spurs high, and we won the ball high up the pitch, and it's going to be a game of, I think, a lot of turnovers. I think the ball's going to change hands a lot of times, and it's just who can grab hold of that midfield. And I think that's where I see a lot of joy. If we can get Nakamba and Barkley on the ball, or Nakamba and Pelly, or maybe all three of them, do we match them up? Can we try and wrestle control in that midfield against Szoboszlai and McAllister, who are fantastic players going forward, but aren't as good defensively. So that's where I see a bit of joy for us on Sunday. And tactically, it's going to be so interesting.
As you've both mentioned, an abundance of attacking talent, but let's focus in on Mo Salah, a player who has been sensational at Premier League level for a fair few seasons now. I don't know how quite to phrase this, but he's the best player probably coming to Kenilworth Road since when? I'm trying to think back to the last time we had a player of his standard come to Kenilworth Road. Of course, we've had Maddison and Son, but Salah takes it to another level. It's going to be interesting to see how he fares, being a player of world class quality at Kenilworth Road.
It's almost like a little spectacle, isn't it? But then we're going to get this all year. Like, we're going to have this sort of conversation of Salah, Haaland, Rashford, whoever, like all these best players, because we were having a discussion at work about the Premier League now, and we were discussing these sorts of streets will never forget players for context. And someone said to me, they were like, the Premier League used to be like some European imports here and there, but now the Premier League is the best in the world. There's no debate anymore. It's not just, they'll go to England because they'll go to England because they are the best in their positions. Like, there's no two ways about it. And that's all we're going to see. But the key thing for me is you need to unsettle these players. They are world-class for a reason, because 9 times out of 10, they're unfazed by their environment and they're unfazed by their opponent. And that's why they just score goals, or they're so good in defence, or like Rodri, that midfield example, you can put that man under pressure if you like, but he ain't going to care. He's just going to pass it around and live the dream. But with a player like Salah, you need to unnerve him, or do your best to unnerve him and put him off and send him on his right foot, and don't do your best to just not put him in positions that are just going to punish you. if you let him have his way, like we did with Diaby and Watkins on Sunday, 2-3-0 before half time. Equally, I think one of the things that's gotten to me the last few games, and I noticed it at Villa, is we're too soft. We give them a lot of time on the ball. We don't like to stick it on them. We don't like to win a second ball. Do you know what? If that ball's in the air, you jump up and you can welly into them. Like, give it back, because they will have no hesitation. Like Haaland, when he comes to the Kenny, he'll bully any man that comes round. But you need to do the same thing. It's a case of stop showing him so much respect. And that'll be the consensus throughout the rest of the season, because as good as Salah is, on Sunday, obviously, easy to say, but Luton want to win. Even if it is Liverpool, even if it's Man City, even if it's Brentford or whoever, you want to win. And by showing your opponents too much respect, we're not going to get that.
Yeah, I think Mo Salah is certainly the best player to come to the Kenny since Chirag Bene. Now, jokes aside, obviously we saw that tweet.
You've been waiting a while to say that.
Now, jokes aside, I saw that tweet where someone had highlighted Chio as a good Mo Salah replacement, so you just had to say it. But
oh yeah, actually, yeah,
but no, Kieran measures a fair point. I mean, if you look at matchups, you got Alfie Doughty on the left against Salah, was going to be phenomenal. Pace wise, we'll match him for sure. If we stick Chio on the left as well in a 4-2-3-1, then it would be Chio and Doughty against Trent and Salah, and that's going to be interesting. And that's why I think we'll go to a 4-2-3-1. We all know the reputation Trent has defensively. You've got to get at that. I think putting Ogbene on that left wing against Trent is going to be so interesting, exciting to see how that matchup goes, and especially if we can push Salah back as well with Alfie Doughty down that left. As Kieran said, just have to get at him in that foot race, shoulder to shoulder. Just go in on Salah so hard, and hopefully we get the calls in our favour, and hopefully that he doesn't win any soft fouls, because I think that's probably the one thing that's going to be our downfall, is if the ref gives Salah too much protection. If he does, then he's going to win lots of fouls, and it's going to limit our ability defensively. But you got to start that way. You just got to start, just go up and at them from minute one.
And every week before I do this preview, I write the question to pose to you boys: where do we hurt them? And I want to probably rename this to Chio Ogbene. How does Chio get the most out of this game? And you mentioned there, if you put him on the left, he's up against Trent, but if you put him on the right, he's up against Tsimikas, who, again, defensively, there has to be questions. Also, very, very recently, he had the better of him, Ireland versus Greece. Chio had a fantastic game against him, one man of the match for Ireland again, and consistently got round him and posed questions. So I guess wherever he's tasked with operating, we can not expect, because you can't really expect to consistently beat a man, but you can expect him to pose questions. And I think even if he starts on the left, goes to the right, I think both Trent and Tsimikas will have a lot to think about. Ogbene has become such a weapon for us, and we've spoken about him in great detail, and he deserves to be spoken in great detail because of the consistency of his performances. And it's just incredible. And I know we've said this time and time again, but we got him on a free. We got Chio Ogbene on a free from Rotherham United, and there was chat as to whether we should be looking at Championship free agents. But what an inspired sign he's turned out to be, and we're speaking about him now as a regular starter, about a player who we expect to really threaten Liverpool's fullbacks. And in my head, it just shows how far he's come in such a short space of time.
Yeah, crazy amounts, and you can just imagine inside the first 10 minutes when Trent's on that main stand side shooting towards the Kenny, we're going to be raucous from minute one. Chio's going to nip the ball and just run, and I rate Trent, and I think he gets a hard time in terms of, I think he's better defensively than people make him out to be, but he's certainly not a Kyle Walker. I think he can be got at, and yeah, that that main stand side is going to be massive. Fair point on Tsimikas in terms of that recent matchup. But I just feel like we've got other threats on that right that can beat him as well. You got, for me, Eli. If we can stick Eli on the right, maybe cutting inside and cutting outside, I think you can chop him left and right. You got Kabore sort of offensively. Can he run it? Tsimikas as well. I think we've got enough up front to be able to threaten both fullbacks, but I think Chio on that main stand side with Alfie Doughty is a partnership that we've actually not seen too much in recent weeks. Because I think we've put him on the right sometimes, and we've gone to like a back 3 or 5. So we've not seen it as much as we had in that little run of games at home. But I think it's time to get that partnership back out again for this game.
We're going to head into a short break. When we're back, we will go through the 3 polls of the week, and we'll also get Jamie and Kieran to give forward their lineups and their score predictions. We are back for part 2 of today's episode, where we're previewing Luton's game against Liverpool this coming Sunday. We're now onto the polls, and poll 1 was: would you start Elijah Adebayo over Colton Morris this Sunday? Jamie, I'll come to you first.
It's certainly the closest it's ever been, hasn't it, in terms of that sort of number 9, if we were to play a 4-2-3-1, in terms of that sole striker. I think if you'd have asked me that question start of October, I'd be like, no chance Morris is our number 9, and it would take a lot for him to lose his place. But I think as games have progressed, it's becoming closer and closer. Eli has scored twice off the bench now. Morris is struggling a bit. I think he'll get there with time, but there comes a time where sometimes you might need to take him out the firing line a little bit. I think for this game, probably not. I think if you look at a game like this, I think it's a massive game, and I think to have that stronger number 9 is probably more important. But having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if he did lose his place. So I'm very much on the fence. I'm going to go with not just yet, but give it a couple more games, a couple more weeks. I definitely will be called in for Eli to start if what is happening continues.
Kieran, what about you? Where do you see yourself on this? And just for context, we put there's the 3 answers: yes, no, or start both. But where would you go here?
I mean, the dream scenario is starting both, but tactically, that isn't how we're going to do it. I want to see Eli get given a chance to start the game, because it'll be interesting to see how he plays on his own, because 9 times out of 10 when he comes on, again, like you say, it's off the bench or it's with Morris. It's not usually on his own up front. Whereas I want to see him given the chance. Like, obviously, he had the chance against Tottenham, and bar that chance, he played really well. I want to see it again, to be honest. He's that, like I said last week, he's that big game player. He rises to the occasion. So as a result, give him the reward of that Nottingham Forest goal and that equaliser. Give him the chance to start. Give him that big game moment and see how he thrives.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, of course. We had 24% at yes. We had 51% at no, with 25% at start both. I think for me, Adebayo to me is very unorthodox, and that makes it a lot more difficult for defenders to, I guess, prepare to stop him, if that makes sense. You think of the goal he scored against Worrell where he held him off. Morris has wonderful qualities. I think he's one of the most well-rounded strikers, well, probably the most well-rounded striker I've seen at Kenilworth Road. But I think just pure sheer strength, bringing others into play. Elijah Adebayo is fantastic at that. Is this the kind of game where we're going to need that? I'm not too sure. So that's why I'm leaning towards Morris. But again, I could potentially see Adebayo on the left. Also, Elijah's doing very well, being this, I guess, game changer coming off the bench and making an impact. So why can't he do it again in this game? So that's why I'd go for no, but you can see why it's so close. You can see why we've asked the question. I think it's not as close as I thought, but ultimately there are a good few answers for each one. Let's go on to poll 2. This is one that I'm sure Jamie's going to have a lot to say. Do you expect to see Andros Townsend start against Liverpool this weekend? And Kieran, I'll come to you first.
Again, I hope so. His off the ball is very good. Whenever he's come on, he's looked promising. Set pieces, quality. And I think for me at the moment, there's no reason why Jacob Brown keeps Townsend out of the team in terms of like for like position change, let's say. There isn't anything that stands out about Jacob Brown where I go, oh, he has to start because Townsend doesn't do this. There's no element there. So for me, give Townsend 60, 65 minutes starting from the get-go. Again, big game requires big game players. Andros Townsend has the most experience in the club, minus Ross Barkley. Same as I said with Eli, I'll echo that same thought. Give him that big game chance.
Jamie, would you start Andros Townsend this weekend?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Kieran. I think if the conversation is, do you start Townsend or Ogbene, then you say no, because Ogbene offers that little bit extra. But I agree with Kieran. I've not seen enough from Brown to make me think he's a guaranteed starter or make me think he deserves to keep his place. I think off the ball he gives us a lot. I think in the press he's good, and I think in our shape that we look to maintain away from home, I think he's a great option. But I just think Townsend in his 2 substitute appearances now has also shown good glimpses off the ball in terms of shape, has the experience. And I think it's time now to give him a go from the start. I don't know whether fitness means he can do 90 minutes, but I think he can certainly do 60. And in a game like this, as Kieran said, he's got the experience. He's played Liverpool, I don't know how many times, but it's got to be 4 or 5 potentially, if not more. So yeah, I think if there's someone that knows how to play against Liverpool, it's probably going to be Andros Townsend. And yeah, if it seems like no matter the setup, it seems like we play that front 3 now, but whether we start with a back 3 or back 4, we play a front 3 with a single striker and two wide players. And it seems like Ogbene's nailed down one of those rightly, as we've said how good he is. So now it's that other one that's up for grabs. And I think right now the closest, if not Eli, I think Eli's done well on the left, but if not Eli, I think it's got to be Townsend.
And before we reveal how that poll fared, I'll just put another question to you. If we're mentioning Townsend there as a potential Brown replacement, if it's still deemed that Townsend needs another appearance from the bench in terms of his recovery, would you be more tempted to play Chong over Brown? Do you think that Chong provides more than Brown? And speaking about this particular test, we spoke about Tsimikas and being very attacking, but lacks somewhat defensively. Do you think Chong is somebody that could get more joy than, say, Brown?
I think against Liverpool, no. I think I would rather the off the ball from the start against Liverpool. If it was a Forest at home or Sheffield United at home or Bournemouth at home or Burnley at home, I probably would go for Chong, because I think we're looking for more on the ball as well as. But I think off the ball from the start is really important. So for that, I would go Brown over Chong. But I think Townsend gives us enough of off the ball to start over Brown in that situation.
Yes, so going on to how that poll ended up, we had 55% who want to see Andros Townsend start against Liverpool this week and 45% at no. Concluding the polls, we had a different one that's not necessarily looking ahead to this game. It's more of a reflection on what we've seen so far. We had which game has left you most disappointed this season. I didn't want to put performance or result. I wanted to take everything into account here. So performance and result. So we had as the options the Burnley loss, we had the Villa loss, we had the Fulham loss, and we also had another category for other, because I think you could probably put another couple of games into that. I'll start with you, Kieran. What would you say is the most disappointed you've left a Luton game this season?
I think for me, it's actually quite unanimous. I didn't even need 3 seconds to think about it. It's Wolves at home. It stank of just opportunity. You get a man sent off after 30 minutes and the opposing team set up 4 at the back, looking leaky with 10 men, and we do absolutely nothing about it. And I said before the halftime whistle, I went, the second they go in, they'll make a sub, they'll go 5 at the back, and they will shut up shop, and they'll throw Neto up front, and they will score first. What happened? That exact scenario, and then we're sat chasing a game against 10 men when they can afford to then lump everyone behind the ball, and we put ourselves in a near impossible situation and escaped, in air quotes, with a point in a game where in reality we should have taken all 3. If you're sort of combining disappointment over performance, disappointment over result, disappointment over every factor, that for me was 2 points dropped without a shadow of a doubt. Tottenham, disappointing. Could we have nicked it? Maybe on a different day. But was I that surprised? No. But again, 10 men. But it's Tottenham. They're top of the league. So in hindsight, it is what it is. Fulham was just gutting, but one of those days they had 1 chance, 1 goal. West Ham, let's not even talk about refs because they're all fucking useless anyway. So, but Wolves, where everything went our way for once, because that doesn't happen very often, every variable was swinging Luton Town's favour, and we just did not capitalise on it. And that's where I've left the ground thinking, fuck off, we should have had that. I'm not just disappointed, but almost angry because we deserved it in every facet, apart from just the performance wasn't up to it.
Jamie, do you have anything else in mind?
I think for me, my answer is equally clear as day, but I'd go Burnley at home. I think far, far, far away was Burnley at home. I think that's the one league game this season where I can say that was a subpar performance. I think Wolves overall, we played well. We should have got 3 points, but we didn't. One of my favourite sayings is, if you can't win, don't lose, and we didn't. We got a draw. Fine. Just sort of got a point and go on to the next game. But equally, if you can't win, don't lose. To lose that game against Burnley 1-1, the way we were pressing, equalised from Adebayo, and then in that split second, as only one team was going to win that. 60 seconds later, cut inside, Bryn Larson, curler, 2-1. And I was so deflated walking out of that ground, just thinking, how the hell have we lost that? I think, to be fair to Burnley, they played really well, and I think on paper they probably could come away saying that they deserved the 3 points based on their performance, because we were subpar. But still, to not get a point from that was difficult to take. And I think I agree with Kieran in terms of Wolves. They weren't great on the day, but if you look at the wider season, they've beat City, they've drawn to Newcastle, they've won at Bournemouth. Like, they're a much better side than we've initially thought they might be when they sacked Lopetegui and appointed O'Neill. Whereas Burnley, outside of our game, they've looked dire. They've looked as bad as Sheffield United. I think on the ball, they're a very good side, but they're just not structurally, tactically set out for this league at the minute. And Company's got to change it quick, or he's going to go, in my opinion. So that hurts. I think, okay, we'll be sat here right now, potentially still third bottom or fourth bottom, but we'd be 4 points clear of the bottom 2, clear as day, the best of the 3 promoted sides. But that win for Burnley, that loss for us, is just sort of letting them back in it a little bit. So that, for me, that's the one game this season that really stings. And we didn't need. I think we shouldn't have lost that game. A point again, you'd have taken it. If you can't win, don't lose. But to lose that, it hurt.
I think that was the important aspect of why we asked this question, because if we would have gone performance, you obviously can categorize that Burnley one, the probably based on performance, Villa as well, the way that played out. But then when you looking solely at result, you put something like Fulham in there, you put potentially West Ham as well in there. So yeah, it's quite an interesting one. But when you combine everything, I have to say I have to go for the Burnley one. And it's the element that you spoke about, Jamie, is that deflation. It was the fact that we seemed to be up in the gears and probably deservedly got the goal, but then to have everything wiped away so quickly against a side who haven't gone on to prove anything since that is very disappointing. So yeah, that Burnley loss for me has to be number one, and that is how the Luton fan base also reacted. They had 83% with the Burnley loss. There was 11% with the Fulham loss, 4% with the Villa loss, and other was 2%. And there's a few games that you can probably categorise into that. Let's turn attention back to the Liverpool game this coming Sunday. Jamie, I want to hear your starting 11.
This is always tough. This is always one of the toughest parts of the pods. I think you can chat for days around various things in games, but then to pick the starting 11 from a squad of 25 is difficult. So Rob Edwards, if you're watching this, I don't envy you one bit in terms of the difficult choices you have to make. For me, I think I've already said that I think we'll go with a 4-2-3-1. I just think that's the best way, I think, of stopping Liverpool on Sunday. So in goal goes without saying, Kaminsky, for me, one of the best keepers in terms of shot stopping in the league at the minute. One of our best keepers for a long time. So absolutely number one. Back four, left back picks itself, Alfie Doughty. Central defenders, well, Lockyer is captain, gets one of them. I think I'm going to be a bit different. I'm going to go Mengi to partner Lockyer because I'm going to play Osho right on the right back of a four. Just to add that bit of defensive solidity. I think Reece Burke has done it on a few occasions, and I think Osho is as good as Reece Burke in terms of that fullback. I mean, even Nathan Jones said it, I think, in a previous season where when they were looking at James Bree backups, he mentioned Gabe Osho as one of the first ones to back up James Bree. So he's always been thought of as someone that can play there. So that's the back four and keeper. Midfield two, I'm going to go Nakamba and Pelly because I'm going to play Barkley in the number 10. Just that bit more of a structure in that midfield. And I think, like I said, Liverpool's midfield can be got at. So having a bit of pressing power in there with Pelly and Nakamba, I think is going to be massive for us. Ogbene gets one of the wide roles, so I'm going to put Ogbene wide left. I've said Townsend should start, so I'm going to play Townsend wide right. And then for me, for now, Morris up top. But equally, if Eli starts, I wouldn't be against that or wouldn't be surprised. So that is my 4-2-3-1 for Sunday.
Before we hear Kieran's, Jamie, you annoy me so much because I thought I was going to be cool and edgy by suggesting Osho in that right back role, and now it's I'm copying you. So cheers for that. Kieran, what's your team?
Oh, lads, well, you'll be happy to hear that I don't have Gabe Osho at right back, so no edgy picks for me. But I am going to go with Kaminsky in net. Back four from left to right of Doughty, Lockyer, Osho, and Kabore. I'm going to bench Mengi. Sorry, pal. Nakamba and Pelly in that double pivot. Barkley sat in front. Ogbene, Townsend. Elijah Adebayo, baby. Luton's Didier Drogba. Thank you very much.
And to cap it off, I've also gone 4-2-3-1. I've got Kaminsky, I've got Doughty, I've got who have I got? I've got Lockyer, Mengi, Osho, and then I'm trying to. It's always difficult, isn't it? It's always difficult to remember who you've said. But Nakamba, Pelly, left, Eli, central, Barkley, right, Ogbene for that Tsimikas 2.0 battering. And then Morris up top. That leaves us to go for score predictions. And Kieran, I want to hear yours first.
All right, here we go. Luton 1, Liverpool 2.
Jamie?
I think we'll take the lead. I think Liverpool will peg us back and go 2-1 up. But I think we're going to get a late equaliser. Luton Town 2, Liverpool 2.
Always sitting on the fence, aren't you?
That's positive, mate. Come on. I would take a point home to Liverpool, that's for sure. That is a bonus point in my book.
And it's more positive than me and Kieran, because I'm also going to go for a 2-1 defeat. That is it for today. A big thank you to the pair of you for joining. A big thank you to everyone continuing to watch and listen on whatever you watch and listen our podcast on. As we mentioned at the top of the show, and as we've put out on social media, our giveaway is live. So make sure to check us out on Twitter. It's our pin tweet. And also, if you want to check out it on Facebook and Instagram, it's there too. Until after the Liverpool game, it is goodbye from us.